Alex, Betty, and Chris are trading marbles. First, Alex gives Betty half of his marbles. Then Betty gives Chris 1/3 of her marbles. Finally, Chris gives Alex 2 marbles. If everyone ends up having 12 marbles, how many marbles did each person start with? I'm going to solve this problem backwards, and I'm going to use a table to solve the problem. But before we get to that, let's highlight some certain parts of the question that are important. Let's make this color green. Let's make this sentence blue. And let's make this sentence pink. Alex, Betty, and Chris. At the end of all the transactions and exchanges, each ended up having 12 marbles. So I'm going to put 12 here. The idea is to go back to the very beginning. We start from here and work with the pink sentence, then the blue sentence, and the green sentence, and end up being here. And hopefully we'll have our answers right here on the top. So we are working backwards. So again, I am now undoing the pink sentence. If Chris gives Alex 2 marbles and they all end up having 12, so I'm going to add 2 marbles. Chris just gave Alex 2 marbles, so I'm going to give those 2 marbles back to Chris. And Chris must have had 14 marbles. And what happened to Alex's marbles? Well, he received 2 marbles from Chris and he ended up having 12. So subtract 2 and you're going to get 10. Nothing happened to Betty's marbles, so I'm going to leave 12 for Betty. Now I'm going to change this color to pink, just so that we know we just worked with the pink statement. Now we're going to work on the blue part, and it is a little difficult because we don't have something as simple as 3 marbles or 4 marbles. The blue sentence reads, then Betty gives Chris 1/3 of her marbles. Okay, so Betty has just given Chris 1/3 of her marbles. So this 12 must be 2/3 of our marbles, and it's a little hard to see. So let's go ahead and draw a nice picture. So for the blue sentence, I'm going to draw a blue circle. And this is all of Betty's marbles before she gave any away. And we are working with the blue sentence. We are right above the pink line on our table. So we are claiming the 12 here must be the marbles Betty was left with after she gave 1/3 of her marbles away. So I'm going to take that 12. And if you give 1/3, you're left with 2/3. And I'm going to divvy up 12 between these 2 pieces. So each piece better be 6 and 6. So the number of marbles she gave to Chris must have been 6. So how many marbles did Betty have before she gave 1/3 away? The answer is 3 times 6 is 18. So Betty had 18 marbles and she gives 1/3. So she's left with 12. So that also makes sense. So now what we're going to do is we are claiming by drawing this blue picture, which is connected to this blue sentence, we can make this argument that Betty must have given Chris 6 marbles. So since we're undoing, we're going to give Betty back her 6 marbles. So we're going to add 12 plus 6 to Betty, and that turns out to be 18. And since Chris received those 6 marbles, we're going to subtract 6 from Chris's number of marbles, and we get 8. And at this point in time, Alex still had 10 marbles. Nothing changed for Alex. And let's change this color to blue. All right. Now, in a very similar manner, we're going to work with the green sentence, and we'll need a picture. Now, the green sentence says, first, Alex gives Betty half of his marbles. So Alex ended up having 10 after he gave away half of his marbles. So this one is actually fairly simple. You don't even have to draw a picture, but since we are doing it pictorially, I will draw a picture. I'm going to draw a green circle just to be consistent in terms of the color. And I'm going to take this and cut it into halves or 2 halves. So Alex gave half of his marbles away and he was left with 10 marbles, this 10. Okay, this must be 1/2 of his marbles. If Alex gives half of his marbles away, he was left with 1/2 of his marbles. This 10 must represent that half. And we're going to write 10 here. And we're going to write a 10 here. So this picture is connected to this green sentence. And that tells me from this green circle, I can conclude that Alex gave Betty 10 marbles. And the question says he gave Betty half of his marbles and he was left with 10 marbles. From our table, we can draw that conclusion. So that simply means Alex must have given Betty 10 marbles. And since we're undoing it, we're going to take those 10 marbles from Betty and give them back to Alex. So we're going to go here. 10, Alex's marbles plus the 10 that he gave to Betty. And 18 minus 10 is equal to 8. And at this point in time, Chris, his total number of marbles didn't change. So we're going to leave it alone. And we're going to say it's 8. So my answers are as follows. Alex, basically the very second line of my table, Alex originally had 20 marbles. Betty originally had 8 marbles. And Chris originally had 8 marbles. So that's the solution. And it is a hard problem. And you really want to genuinely understand what is going on. What's hard about this problem is that we're working backwards and we are dealing with fractions. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to check if my answer is correct or not. And I'm going to tell you how I check it. So the way to check it, we're going to go in the right direction. Let's say Alex had 20 marbles. Betty had 8 marbles to begin with. Chris had 8 marbles to begin with. And we're going to walk through the problem in the right direction, starting with the green sentence and then the blue sentence and the pink sentence. And if we follow through, do we really end up having 12 marbles for each person? So the question says, the green sentence of the question says, Alex gives Betty half of his marbles. So, okay, take 20, subtract 10, and we get 10. 8, Betty received those 10 marbles. 18. And this one for Chris, nothing changed. I'm going to leave it alone and write 8. Now what happened? We are now working with the blue sentence. I'm going to leave 10 for Alex because this is not going to change. When we're reading the blue sentence, what do we learn? Betty gives Chris 1/3 of her marbles. 1/3 of 18 is 6. So that tells me Betty must have given 6 marbles. So I'm going to subtract 6 from Betty's total number. I get 12. And Chris goes up by 6 because he received 6 marbles. Okay. Now, what happened with the pink sentence? Actually, I'm going to make my table all the same color. The colors are not relevant anymore. So now the pink sentence says, finally, Chris gives Alex 2 marbles. So now Chris is giving back to Alex. Note, it's not like going from left to right. We are now going from right to left. Chris is going to give 2 marbles to Alex. So what does that mean? Alex will end up having 2 more marbles. And Betty will still have 12. Nothing changed for Betty. And Chris gave 2 marbles to Alex, so he will lose 2 marbles and he will end up having 12. Take a look. Take a look. They all end up having 12 marbles. So I know my answer has to be correct. I don't have to look in the back of the book. I do know my answer has to be correct. So